Hey guys, it's Jim, welcome back to the channel, and I have spent the last few days re-listening to Feeder's Echo Park from 2001. Now why did I choose to go back to this? It just comes from an era where all of this Britpop was around, all these bands were around, and it's just a blast to be a music fan in the UK. And I feel like Feeder are one of those forgotten bands, because they really were a standout of the era, and I don't feel like they get much respect today. And I think people forget how good and how strong Feeder were. You know, still are really, I still like them to this day, but how good their earlier stuff was, and how amazing Echo Park was. And this album takes you back to a time when rock was mainstream, you know, the mid-90s and the early 2000s, when rock was what was dominating the charts, where you could be heavy and still be the popular music, where you could have people enjoying these crazy rock songs. They just never would today. You could never, there's no band like Feeder today. You know, there's Feeder around, but there's no young band like Feeder. It was just a different time where this kind of rock music could get the massive mainstream audience. Echo Park, released on 23rd of April 2001, was an incredibly confident and strong statement by Feeder. They were clearly going for a more commercial sound, but the quality of the songs was incredible. This is just packed full of great choruses, but also it's more interesting than a lot of people give it credit for. I feel like people remember this album for the singles, which are great. You know, Buck Rogers, everyone knows that. Who hasn't even heard of Feeder, everyone knows that, and it still stands up. But there's more interesting stuff going on the album. Like, the album opens with Standing on the Edge, and this is where Feeder show their proficiency for having, for switching around how a song can be. So this has a heavier verse, but a softer chorus. And it's quite admirable that Feeder, a band that have these exploding choruses, chose to switch this around on this album and open the album with it. And this song's a very moody, very groovy, very interesting song, showing that Feeder are capable of lots of sounds. I love Grant's voice, Grant Nicholas, the vocalist. I've always loved his voice. I think he lends himself very well to vocal effects like echo and distortion. And this album was produced by Jill Norton, so the whole sound of the album is incredible. It's one of Jill Norton's biggest success stories, I think, Echo Park, and not lots of people will remember that because they remember him for other albums, but this is just such a well-produced album. It just sounds fantastic. It sounds like the biggest thing on earth, but at times it sounds claustrophobic, other times it sounds spacious, and it's not watered down. You know, if you were to make a rock band today, try and push them to the mainstream, you'd have to water down the guitars. You'd have to make the drums a bit softer. This isn't. Like, these are these super poppy choruses with this heavy guitar and these smashing drums, and I love it. I love going back to this time. It washes over you and you think, yeah, it can be like this. It can be like this again. We need rock music to come back like this. Buck Rogers is, of course, the song on this album everyone knows. Find me someone, even someone who hates Feeder, who hates Buck Rogers. And I won't believe you if you say you hate it. If Feeder were in front of you and they started playing Buck Rogers, everyone would get into it. I don't care if you dislike them. This is one of the most infectious songs of all time, probably.
He's got a brand new car. Looks like a Jaguar. It's got leather seats. It's got a CD player.
And it's also one of the most songs ever that's identified with a time period, because the early 2000s, this was all over video games, all over TV, all over soundtracks, and it just sounds like the biggest thing on earth when that chorus comes in. It's just a big ball of fun.
I think we're gonna make it. I think we're gonna save it, yeah. So don't you try and fake it
Triumphant chorus. I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to save it. So don't you try and fake it anymore. You can take this song a few ways. I think it's a very, very positive song, but it's a very interestingly written song. I feel like it's a song about making up for past mistakes and moving forward and forgetting anything that's gone wrong and just being happy. Or it's about repairing a relationship, saying we're going to make it. Don't try and fake it anymore, we're going to make it. But it's just all about moving forward. And I love those little phrases in the song. Obviously, everyone knows he's got a brand new car, looks like a Jaguar, leather seat, CD player. It's just happy things, you know, getting happy things. We'll start over again, grow ourselves new skin, get a house in Devon. I love these little lines. A lot of these 90s and 2000s songs can become dated, but I feel like if you listen to Buck Rogers, it still sounds great. It still sounds great. And I'm going to be seeing Feeder in a few months' time. And I can't wait. This is the first time I've seen him, and I'm going to be hearing that track. I cannot wait. You know, it's like a time capsule, this song, but it's still just as strong every time you hear it. Feeder can be also quite a downbeat, quite an introspective band. They've got lots of sides to them. The next track, Piece by Piece, is one of the most incredible things they ever wrote, because it's such a little downbeat song that's just delivered incredibly well. Everything works on this. Grant's vocal sounds incredibly somber, incredibly downbeat and lost, and the whole song sounds like an aimless man wandering. You know, it sounds like someone trying to make sense and come to terms with things. There is this sense of confusion to the song. And the bass throughout is just very moody, very deliberate. Also synthesizers on this track, and there's synthesizers throughout the album. They add a certain oddness and frustration and tension to this song, which I think works really well.
It's pulling me down, tearing me down, piece by piece.
It's just a mysterious, interesting little song. Again, that showed Feeder were capable of a lot. 7 Days in the Sun is the next song. Bring back these kind of songs. Honestly, this album's just banger after banger. 7 Days in the Sun is basically the same sort of rock song as Buck Rogers, and again, it's just incredibly triumphant and spectacular and full of that energy that we had at this time of just songs that are explosions of happiness. The song very much conjures up feelings of summer and holiday. Very summery sounding song about memories of people you've spent time with. Grant is recounting stories of being with a woman in a summer that they went on holiday. It's about the times you spend with people and how they make an imprint in your mind, and going back to that mindset. Even though it's nostalgic and it's longing for that time, it doesn't feel like it's looking at it from resentment. It's enjoying and appreciating and treasuring that time. I love that high note that Grant hits in the chorus. It's a change in melody and tone that is just so appreciated, and you just feel like belting it out there with him. It's a pure anthem.
Yeah, she's my anthem. She's a spark. Yeah, yeah. Feels like anthem. So light me up.
I would liken this album in a lot of ways to Nirvana's Nevermind, because I do really feel like there are moments where Grant is trying to channel Kurt Cobain with his screaming, but it's that idea that Nevermind had of taking that grunge sound and making it mainstream. This is just making it a bit more mainstream. It's more poppy than that. But I feel like there's lots of Nirvana influence on this album. Just the heaviness of the guitar, but the very catchy chorus. Scratchiness of some of the sounds. Some of Grant's vocals. Very Nirvana-esque. I love the song We Can't Rewind as well. I feel like it's a mixture of happy and sad. It's about accepting that we can't go back, but also, you know, the sadness of that. But I love the chorus. Again, a very heavy guitar riff, but it's about, this is our time, we can't rewind, our place to shine now, we can do it anyway. Feeder are great at writing those happy, you know, choruses that pull you out of a slump.
This is our time. We can't rewind. Our place to shine now. We can live it anyway. This is our time to feel someone.
Tell All Your Friends, one of my favourites on the album. Smashing guitars happen halfway through the verse. It's a very unpredictable verse structure, and it just feels very heavy, strange atmosphere, and just them doing what they want. But then, of course, that chorus comes in, and it's the catchiest thing on planet Earth. Tell All Your Friends, The Neighbours Too, CNN, BBC World News is one of the catchiest vocal lines I have ever heard. This is just round and round and round, and it just feels like a jolt of electricity running through my veins when I hear this chorus. It's madness. It's so good.
Fucking air guitar gone mental.
The song Satellite News is more indie rock focused. It kind of indicates where Feeder were going to go in the future, which was they became a lot softer and gentler, and, you know, they made songs like Just the Way I'm Feeling, very indie rock focused, still good, but a bit more calm than the crazy rock explosions you're having elsewhere on this album. Satellite News is an example of where they would go, but it's a nice little song. It's very pleasant. They can do gentle rock quite well, Feeder. I don't like it as much as their anthemic stuff, but they can do it quite well. Satellite News is decent. I want to lift myself up to the sky, serenade the stars as I pass by. You know, it's a good little lyric, and it sticks in your head, and it's very relaxing and pleasant, this song. You've also got songs like Choke, which is this punky, unleashed frustration, grungy, Cobain-esque. You know, him belting out choke, choke, choke in the chorus is so Kurt Cobain-esque. But then he goes into a very Feeder-like second half of the chorus. So again, Feeder is so good at combining these styles. And Choke is just a great bundle of fun, aggressive song. I love that Feeder aren't afraid to be aggressive on such a commercial album. It's really, I really respect it. Songs like Choke are unapologetic, you know. There's also Just a Day, which is a bonus track, so I don't really talk about it in regards to this album because it's a bonus track, which blew me away because this was one of their biggest hits. Just a Day, this fierce, horrible, fast-paced, punky song that dominated the charts, that everyone loved. You could make a punk song in the early 2000s and it would rise up the charts. You couldn't, and they were a British band. You couldn't do, no one's doing that today. And Just a Day is great because it's just speed and pace and frenzy, that song. And it's not even on the album. You know, I always associated Echo Park with Just a Day. It's not even on the album. That's how strong these songs, they were churning them out. Under the Weather is a great song. When I heard it as a kid, I didn't really associate it with hangovers, which I presume is what it's about. So I actually associated it with being ill. But it's one of the most songs for me that's ever depicted how it feels to be ill. It feels like that. You know, it's just a disgusting riff, and it's very overbearing, and it's very chaotic. It's what your head feels like when you're ill. That's what Under the Weather does. But it's still really catchy and a really fun chorus, and it's a really, really great song. You know, what rock band was saying, "Give me Nurofen Plus"? Like, that's a lyric that will stand the test of time. Turn was one of the singles from the album, and I felt this is one of the most impressive songs on the album. It's very cinematic, it's very different to everything else, and it showed Feeder, you know, just the versatility of them. It's longing for a direction out of alienation, I feel like, this song, and a lot of this album is that. You know, it's not just punching the air riffs, there is some more, you know, thought-provoking stuff on here. Grant's basically doing a spoken word on this, you know, and I think his voice is very good at that. His voice is quite mesmerising and strange at times, and lost, and you feel him singing out of a void on Turn, and, you know, throughout the album, but on this song, I don't want to sit here wasting time, I just want a place inside your mind, I wish I could turn the clocks right back. You know, good little lyrics. Feeder are good at lyrics, you know, it's a great way of how it feels like you want someone to think of you, and you wish you could turn back to when they did, and you don't want to waste any time with you not being on their mind. It's that idea of wanting someone to want you. Oxygen, I love the drifting, melancholy type vibe of this song. It's very pleasant sounding, but eventually the chorus starts to hit harder and get more heavy each time it's played. And then eventually, halfway through the song, there's just this guitar assault out of nowhere. And Feeder are great at that. They attack your senses. You'll think a song's going a certain way, and then the guitar will just come in out of nowhere and just, you know, a wall of sound. And the drums will do that as well, and I respect that, because it keeps you on your toes. And they're very good at having the instruments develop and slowly build a mood. And eventually this song becomes spacey and epic and big, you know, and spectacle. Feeder, they'll always give you little snapshots of what they're capable of, but still focus on their core sound. And I respect that. I think they're an incredibly cohesive and tight rock band. The final song on the album is Bug, with this crazy sci-fi industrial type vibe. It's an absolute blast of a song, and it's just very wild and crazy and out of control. Grant has these echoey vocals, almost sounds like he's singing out of like a spacey void. It's very sci-fi-esque, this song. Again, Feeder are showing that they can go into that world of the epic, the spacey, the spectacle, but team it with punk rock chaos. A lot of what Feeder tries to team up, you almost feel like it shouldn't work, but they're so good at making it all come together. The song is just one long burst of chaos. It's different to everything on the album. It's a song that's on a knife edge. There's so much tension to it, and I love it. It's an experience, this song. Echo Park was so amazing. Feeder were able to team what was going on with Britpop, you know, the pulp and the blur. They kind of got a bit of that going on in the verses, but then they just took it into what we'd seen past. The grunge era was ready to stop, but Feeder were going to keep it alive and team it with this poppier style, this commercial style. And again, they were just writing anthem after anthem on here. Every song is a banger. Every song's a banger. And I love going back to these albums where rock ruled the charts in the 90s and 2000s. What do you guys think of Feeder Echo Park? What do you think of Feeder? How do they fit into that Britpop era? Were they a good one? Do you think they're underrated? All that good stuff. Let's talk about it in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next video.